think we're all dying to know what Britney Spears and Janet Jackson make of Justin Timberlake publicly apologizing to them on Instagram. And it seems Janet is at least aware of his statement because she weighed in with a black heart and hug emoji on a Twitter thread where fans were showing her love. So Justin apologized to both women after a new Britney Spears documentary started a conversation about his handling of their breakup and his role in the infamous Super Bowl wardrobe malfunction. So, what do you think of this apology?
Well, my first thought is he finally admitting that he only became the breakout star of NSYNC and a successful solo artist because Britney Jean Spears made him? Because that is a fact, a pop culture fact. So I appreciate if he's acknowledging that. I also appreciate this Jezebel tweet that came out after Justin's apology was posted. This headline is hilarious. Like most women in their late 30s, Britney Spears has received a half-hearted apology from her terrible high school boyfriend. Yeah, sums it up.
Accurate.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that like I guess the I can't stay silent any longer. It's a bit rich. I mean, it was pointed out that he did stay silent for what, 20 years? So like, is he only apologizing because there is this reckoning happening, not just with Britney, but with, Janet, Lindsay, Monica, Lorena Bobbitt? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no turning back. And I wonder if he read that correctly.
I gotta say, I listen, I saw that apology. I was like, oh, okay. What year is it? I think this is a little bit overdue, Justin. But I also had to sit there, as I did after I watched the Britney doc that we talked about last week on the show. And everyone's saying he has to apologize, and I think he had to apologize. Whether or not Britney and Janet care about it or not is a whole different issue. But then I said, well, then I guess I have to apologize because I was eating up all of that stuff that was happening at the time, not only with Britney, but then our media colleague, Terry Hart, she tweeted this, I think, yesterday. And I kind of had a moment where I had to sit back and say, some women that the world should apologize to. The world, she says, not just Justin. I'll start. Janet Jackson, Monica Lewinsky, Anita Hill, Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan. And listen, the Cry Me a River video that everyone says, boy, Justin really threw Britney under the bus. I love the song. And even at the time, I remember going, oh my gosh, this video. So I have to apologize because I think all of us, to a different degree, for us who are following him and her, are complicit too. So I apologize along with Justin, not the Janet or Britney care.
I'm glad you
saying
said that,
anyway.
Mel, because I do think, again, it's like he apologized, better late than never, I suppose. I think what matters now is what happens next. And I think people will be watching very closely to see if his actions will back up his words. Like, what will he do to actually, move forward in the space and try to elevate, his maybe female colleagues, female singers, people of color, because this is a guy who, I'm just going to put it out there. Everyone knows I'm a big fan of Prince, and I've said before on this show that Prince was not a fan of JT. They had some very public sort of
he knew,
jabs
Cynthia,
at each other.
He knew.
It's like he knew. Yeah, he was not a fan, which always told me something. But I mean, let's rewind for a minute. We talked about Justin and Britney. They started out in this industry when they were kids. They were mouseketeers. They were very young people, and they were shaped and molded at that time by image makers, by American sort of ideology. And I think, especially as, you see their trajectory, right? As he got older, the narrative was kind of okay, you're in this boy band and you want to separate, you sing falsetto, you've got this big mop of curly hair. I think at a certain point in time, he was like, I need to separate from this boy band. I need to be a man. So what does that mean? At least even in the 90s, being a man meant asserting your masculinity in a very particular way. It's so fraught. It's so problematic. In the same way that Britney was set up as this perfect, innocent, girl, and then they sexualized her image and then they punished her for it. These were the narratives that we were working with. Was it disgusting that Justin was talking about his sex life with Britney as a kind of on radio stations? Of course. It was also disgusting that he was even asked. As we've started to again, reflect backwards, the questions come up not not only about these individuals, but also the whole support mechanism around them and what it was trying to build up and the way in which culture ate it up.
I love that so much, Cynthia. And the idea of apologizing for me is a fascinating one. Like, people are calling on Diane Sawyer and Sarah Silverman to also apologize to Britney. But it's like, you know, apologizing for behaving in a way that the culture permitted, even encouraged at the time. It's a hard thing to wrap your head around. What I do like is the re-examination right now. This makes so much more sense to me. The reconsidering of it all. That seems so productive. And maybe that starts with
yeah,
the apology.
But the difference between Sarah Silverman and Justin Timberlake, though, Jess, and I agree with you, is that for those people who are calling for her apology, Sarah Silverman over the last 20 years has actually been evolving her comedy. She has said, I used to tell rape jokes. That was horrible of me. I have reconsidered. So she's been doing the work over the last few years. I think the difference between Mel, you said you need to apologize. Sure, Cynthia, you said the culture needs to reckon with itself. Sure, but the culture has been reckoning with itself. On our show, we've been reckoning with it. Mel, you multiple times have talked about your allegiance to Hillary Clinton, for example, and how that was in conflict with how you're reassessing the Monica Lewinsky situation now. We've been doing that work. This is really the first clear time Justin Timberlake has come out and said, yeah, I benefited from these structures. Yeah, I need to be part of this conversation. So to what you're saying, Jess, what's next? Because you know what celebrities do? Apologies, one and done. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I already apologized on Instagram. Look at my Instagram. You know what would be great is if, as he promises on Instagram, for him to be like, I wanted to be part of this conversation. So, hey, New York Times, for sure, when you interview me, ask me about it, interrogate me about it. Let me have a broader conversation about it. Because my fear is that I like this apology and I don't like Justin Timberlake, but I don't think it's a bad one. I just worry that it's just going to be a wall. I did what I did. I said what I said. Let's move on. Here's my new song.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is in the what's next. You know, there's a lot that happened back then that we're talking about. And then as we're reckoning with it, like all these years, like 20 plus years later. And when it comes to Justin Timberlake in particular and the work that he's doing or not doing, the one thing that really jumped out at me is a lot of the stuff that has been lobbed his way, which is the accusation of appropriation, not just now throwing Britney under the bus, but appropriation when it comes to his music. Is it Black appreciation or is it Black appropriation when you have become this big, rich, famous artist on the backs of many famous Black producers? You know, there's the Ushers and the Chris Browns of the world, but it was the Justin Timberlakes of the world that got to do a posthumous song with Michael Jackson. Like those moments, right, where you kind of go, oh, that's interesting. And then the Jesse Williams BET speech in 2016, I'm pretty sure we talked about it on the show when Justin was dragged on social media for using the hashtag inspired as he was watching the BET Awards, when Jesse said, basically, this is a system of people who are abusing us and extracting what he called the Black gold of our culture for their benefit. And that's why people said, well, Justin, it's a little tone deaf that you are using hashtag inspired, and then followed up with apologies that for some people sounded like an all lives matter kind of statement in response. So that's the part of like, is he doing the learning? I don't know that for sure. Only he knows the answer.
Well, and I'm sure we will see in the time to come. Okay.